Let me show you a number that doesn't make sense. Salesforce took 20 years to hit $30 billion in annual revenue. Anthropic did it in under 3 years from a standing start. And they're just getting started. If you follow tech, you know the Magnificent Seven. Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Nvidia, Meta, Tesla. The most valuable companies on the planet, each worth over $1 trillion, built over decades. Now imagine a company founded in 2021, 6 years old, that could out-earn every single one of them by 2027. That's not a prediction from a VC trying to pump a portfolio. That's a scenario being seriously discussed in Silicon Valley right now, and the math actually holds up. Here's what we know. Dario Amodei, co-founder and CEO of Anthropic, recently sat down for an interview where he laid out the company's current trajectory. What he shared was, frankly, hard to process. Anthropic ended 2025 with roughly $9 billion in annualized revenue. By April 2026, that number hit $30 billion. By mid-May, estimates put it closer to $47 billion. That's a growth rate Amodei himself described as approximately 80 times in a single year. To put that in context, Amodei said his most optimistic internal budget scenario assumed 10 times growth. They blew past that by a factor of 8. The constraint right now isn't demand, it's compute. Anthropic literally cannot serve customers fast enough because they don't have enough processing power. Which brings us to one of the stranger business stories of 2026. Elon Musk, who spent the first half of the year publicly calling Anthropic evil, misanthropic, and worse, quietly signed a deal to hand them his entire Colossus 1 supercomputer cluster in Memphis, Tennessee. Over 220,000 NVIDIA GPUs, 300 megawatts of compute capacity, all of it rented to Anthropic for $1.25 billion a month. Why would Musk do this? A few reasons. xAI, which Musk has since merged into SpaceX, had already migrated its own training workloads to Colossus 2. Colossus 1 was sitting underutilized, and Musk's real target right now isn't Anthropic, it's OpenAI. In his words, the enemy of his enemy is a compute partner, so Musk got a multi-billion-dollar revenue stream. Anthropic got the compute it needed to keep scaling, and OpenAI got a stronger competitor. Now here's where the math gets genuinely interesting. Amazon, the highest earning company among the Magnificent Seven, reported revenue of roughly $717 billion in 2025. At current growth rates, Amazon won't crack $1 trillion until well after 2027. If Anthropic sustains even a fraction of its current growth trajectory, say 10 times per year instead of 80, its annualized revenue in 2027 would cross $1 trillion. That would make a 6-year-old AI company the highest revenue business in human history. Now, revenue is not profit. Anthropic is spending aggressively, $1.25 billion a month just on compute from SpaceX alone. The economics are complicated, but the revenue trajectory is real, and the valuation market is pricing it in. Anthropic's latest funding round valued the company at nearly $1 trillion before it's even public. Dario Amodei has written about what he calls the compressed 21st century, the idea that AI is compressing decades of economic progress into just a few years. A year ago, that sounded like an interesting thought experiment. Looking at these numbers today, it's starting to look like a forecast. Whether Anthropic gets there or not, one thing is clear: the rules we use to measure business growth no longer apply. I'm Kyle. If you want to understand what's actually happening in AI, not the hype, the numbers, hit subscribe. I'll see you next time.